Now let's look at the midpoint between 2 points, right? And it's exactly what that means, the middle of the two situations here. So that's what we're looking at there, to find that point. And it's basically the middle or the average between these 2 points, and that's how we get our formula, believe it or not. We find the average between each coordinate. So we're going to say, to find the average, we add them together, divide by how many there are. So we're going to say x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then it's going to be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So pretty simple for our midpoint formula. Let's show you how it works in practice if we're taking our 2 points here. I've already written my formula out, and we can see that this one will be x1. I mean, you could have called the other x, you could have called b x1 and y1, but I've gone with a. They will all work out the same, x2 and y2 there. And now we just pop it into our formula. So x1 plus x2, we've got 2 plus 6, and our y value is y1 plus y2, so 1 plus 4 all over 2, and we end up with 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2, we get 4, and then 5 over 2, same as 2.5. I'm just going to leave it as 5 over 2, and I can't cancel that at all. And if you look at, I just whacked that in before, you can see it's pretty spot on. So 4 and 2.5. Okay, so a very simple formula for our midpoint, and we can extend that just a little bit with the typical thing where we did with the distance, where instead of find the distance between these 2 points, we also said, well, here is the distance, can you find a missing value? And we can do the same thing here. Given the midpoint between this point A and B, we're saying that this is, so minus 5, 8 is in fact the midpoint. Now you could sketch it and solve it by maybe just looking at it, right? Because we've got the situation where we've got A is 3 minus 1, and then we've got this midpoint here of minus 5, 8. And then to find B, which we're going to call x2 and y2, you could have called it little a and little b, or p and q, whatever you want. And you can see that it's quite logical. You could go, well, how did I go from 3 to minus 5 here on the x? I'll do the same to over there. But using a formula is just easy. You don't have to draw, you don't have to guess. It's just, sub and away you go. So we write our formula down and we look what information do we have. In this case, we have our midpoint. So we will pop that in. It's minus 5, 8. It says equals, I pop equals, put the bracket. What is our x1 and x2? So here's our first x coordinate and here's our second. So I'm writing 3 plus x2 over 2. You could have written x2 plus 3 over 2, doesn't matter. And then our y will be the minus 1 plus the unknown y value. Now I hope you can see that this has to be the situation that if this coordinate minus 5, 8 equals our other coordinate, it has to be that the x values have to be the same. It's impossible to have, minus 5, 8 equals 11 minus 2. It just doesn't make sense. So now, because these two have to equal each other, we will write that down. And you can see this becomes a simple linear equation that we can solve. To get x2 by itself, we're going to get rid of this divide by 2 first. Okay, and to get rid of the divide by 2, we multiply, so that becomes minus 10 equals 3 plus x2. No divide by 2, we got rid of it because we multiplied. And now looking in front at this 3, that's a positive 3, so to get rid of that plus 3, we will subtract 3. Technically from both sides, but what we've done is we've subtracted it from this side, that means it's gone, so take it from the other side as well. Therefore x2 equals minus 13. We're going to do the same with our y values, because this y value has to equal this y value slash coordinate. And again, you must write that down. Try not to jump. I know it seems like it might be pretty straightforward, but always write down this line of thinking, because that will give you a mark when I'm looking at it. And once again, to get rid of our divide by 2, we will multiply we get minus 1 plus y2, and in this case, to get rid of our negative 1, we will add 1. So we end up with y2, 16 plus 1 is 17. Therefore, B is the coordinate minus 13, 17. If this was a test or an assignment, I would actually now substitute my B value and my A value into my formula and see, do I actually get my coordinate of minus 5, 8? How many ways can I write this question? I can keep saying, yes, given the midpoint between these 2 points is, or I could say, what if I have a circle, instead of calling this the midpoint, I could call it the center of the circle. And A and B, instead of calling them points A and B, I could call them ends of the diameter. Right? So start getting used to reading the question and looking at how the words are, draw a diagram and see if it helps you solve. Hope that helps.